Welcome to the Frugal Kitchen at Sandra's Corner. Today we are going to be making apple syrup because I refuse to use anything that has corn syrup in it, and buying pure maple syrup gets expensive after a while when we have people who eat pancakes on a regular basis or French toast. I'm going to show you how to make apple syrup the way I make it. It ends up being very inexpensive, and I make it with raw sugar, which still has the molasses in it, so there's actually some nutritional content to the syrup. And I have saved bottles from the maple syrup, and that's what I put it in when I'm done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 2 1/4 cups of raw sugar and 2 cups of water. And I'm going to start that on medium heat. Stir it up so that it dissolves nicely, because you don't want any of the sugar sticking to the bottom. And as we're getting that stirred up, we're going to add to it a whole cut up apple. I take the seeds out, but that's pretty much it. Sometimes I have been known not to even take the seeds out and to just strain them out later. But it doesn't matter what apple you're using, just anything that's not perfect. That's what I do if an apple gets a bruise. A pretty good one, I just use that apple for this. And once we get the apple in and get it stirred up enough that you don't have a bunch of sugar on the bottom, we are going to put a lid on it and just let it simmer for, it depends on what your weather is like, but I like to let it simmer for about an hour. That's why we have the heat down as low as we do, so that we do not burn it. So here we are an hour later. You can see that's simmering away nicely. The apple is soft. If you push it up against the side, it starts to smash up a little bit. It's not anywhere near thick where we want it to be, because this is where we're going to add the cinnamon here. I like to add cinnamon. You can add lemon juice. You can add pretty much anything. You can add cloves. And I would just like to point out that I'm just going to add a couple of sprinkles of cinnamon. But this could be made with pretty much any other fruit other than apples. If you were going to make it with oranges, if you wanted orange syrup, you could use the zest of the whole orange. Or if you wanted to make it a lemon syrup, the zest of a lemon. This is really good with pomegranate. I've made it that way. And if you want to preserve it, if you want to make enough for, like, say, for the whole year, this will make about enough for a month for us. But if you want to make enough for a whole year, you can do it in a big pot. You can actually can it. So now we're going to put the lid back on it. We're going to turn down the heat a little bit, and we're going to let it go for about another half an hour. So here we are about a half an hour later. We're still simmering away. You can see that the apples are starting to break up some, and the syrup is right where I want it. You can see it's still very thin, but it will thicken as it cools. If you want it to be really, really thick, you can let it go for another half an hour. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fish all the apple pieces out and use those in something else, and then I will fill the jars. There we have our finished bottle of apple syrup and what was left over. If you want to make this one bottle, you probably want to cut back by about a half a cup of water and a half a cup of sugar. Or if you want to make 2 full bottles, you'll want to add an extra cup of each. A little note on the apples: if you let those dry out now, they make a wonderful addition to fruitcake if you make fruitcake or any other kind of pastry or anything like that, because they're basically candied apples at this point. So now it's time for me to make pancakes for the week and put the syrup in the fridge. It'll thicken up, and that'll last us about a month. And I hope everybody has a beautiful day.